wrestling.
It's wrestling!
Yeah, 13, it looks like wrestling, right? Ooh.
Wrestling? Really?
You can't tell us you don't love wrestling.
Well, I don't really know wrestling.
Do you ever miss wrestling?
I miss wrestling. I love wrestling.
And love professional wrestling.
Fight, 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 fight.
Forever.
Forever and ever.
December 13th, 2013, January 6th, 2014, January 10th, 2014, January 13th, 2014, February 2nd, 2022, and August 24th, 2022. These are the last 6 professional wrestling losses of CM Punk, and of those 6, Jon Moxley accounts for 4 of those losses. So clearly Mox has Punk's phone number. Hello everybody and welcome to today's Fight Forever podcast. Today's show is a recap show for the week in wrestling. We have 2 promotions to cover, so this week let's kick it off with AEW as opposed to WWE, as there's a lot of AEW news and controversy.
Not a sports entertainer, Chris. This is a wrestling company, not a sports entertainment company. My man, go down the block.
Except I guarantee that this sports entertainment will actually be entertaining. And I realized why I'd never heard of you before. It's because you look like a jobber.
So AEW had a super busy week and we're fast approaching All Out, which is next Sunday. Next week as a whole is absolutely packed, as we have Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, Rampage, Clash at the Castle, and All Out. I'm not counting NXT. The card for All Out and for Clash at the Castle is finally starting to materialize, and they're looking good. However, while all that is positive, AEW has had an absolute shitstorm recently. And the weirdest part about that is that a lot of it is super preventable. So before we get into the recaps of the show, let's go back to when things really kicked off. And you might remember that recently Thunder Rosa was accused of sandbagging. And if you don't know what sandbagging is, it's essentially not selling your opponent's offense and intentionally not helping them deliver moves to you. Or in Thunder Rosa's case, it seems like she was intentionally making Marina Shafir suplex dead weight with no assistance. So going beyond an accusation, you could definitely tell that something was off in her match with Marina Shafir. And on social media, AEW's women's talents were bringing light to this and highlighting that this might be true. So Marina Shafir and Thunder Rosa break bread. They post a picture online and they show that all is good between them. But then you fast forward to Thunderstorm, which is Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm, versus Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. And Britt hands Rosa a sandbagging t-shirt, essentially bringing this feud and this story to TV. And AEW in general aren't shy about doing this because they know their audience. So Thunder Rosa then has several matches where she doesn't seem to be selling as well as she should. And if you don't know what selling means, selling is essentially making your opponent look good. So if I deliver a suplex to you, I want you to be screaming in pain or hitting the mat or showing agony on your face. It means that you're selling the move. So she's had several matches where she's not selling as well as she should, and she is definitely not helping with some moves. This was clear in the match with Marina Shafir as well. And I think that Thunder Rosa herself would agree with that. So now Thunder Rosa's hurt, and she's been hurt for some time, and she is not well. And before she won the AEW's women's title, she was also badly hurt with her back, but they pulled the trigger anyway because it felt like the right time. And this, accompanied with her history of working stiff and hitting hard, and a quote from other wrestlers is that she's trying to fucking kill you. She works stiff, she hits hard, she's not as elegant as somebody as like Dolph Ziggler would be. She wouldn't be a Dolph Ziggler in terms of her selling and in terms of making somebody else look good and not hitting hard. So she allegedly has a history of berating talent also, but I think that story is blown out of proportion entirely. So here's my thing. Here's my thing on this. I don't think that she's intentionally sandbagging. And I think she literally can't wrestle to any competent level due to her back injury. Because she's allegedly sandbagging, think about it this way. They're all moves that require strain on your back. So I think that she actually isn't necessarily sandbagging. I think her back injury is so bad to the point where it's unintentionally making her sandbag, because all the moves she's getting caught doing when this happens are suplexes and moves that put weight on your back. So I don't think she's necessarily intentionally ruining a match or making somebody look bad. Now, I'm the only one that's theorizing this. It might not have as much weight as I think it has, and I don't know if it's true because I've read the stories as well. But moving on, we're going to spoil a little bit of the Dynamite recap. They announced in Dynamite that Thunder Rosa is injured and is stepping away from the title picture, and they aren't relinquishing her title. She initially said they're relinquishing the title, but then went back to say that it's going to be an interim title. So the reason why they're doing this is because they've set the precedent with CM Punk, so they can't take the title from her. They can't make her relinquish it because they just allowed CM Punk to keep his title for a long time while being injured and not on TV. So at All Out, it is a 4-way to determine who is the interim women's champion. This could be punishment for her bad behavior, or it could be a legitimate injury, or both. But this is where everything kicked off with the backstage drama. Now, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter genuinely don't like her because she works too stiff. And the original plan for All Out was for her to lose the title, according to Dave Meltzer. So we'll see where that goes. We will obviously have some update on that next Sunday because somebody is going to win the interim title. But yeah, like when it comes to Thunder Rosa, there's a lot of drama surrounding her right now. So moving on, we have Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston had a confrontation backstage, which happened when Eddie Kingston approached Sammy Guevara over something Sammy said which felt like a shoot, and Sammy Guevara essentially laughed in the face of Eddie Kingston. It was something along the lines of, you can't say that I'm fat in a promo, stop talking about me being fat in a promo, or something like that. But Sammy Guevara essentially laughed in his face and it caused a physical altercation, and Eddie Kingston got suspended. And now Eddie Kingston doesn't seem to be on the All Out card against Sammy Guevara like was planned. After that, we had CM Punk returning and cutting a promo on Adam Hangman Page, which was entirely off the script, and then buries one of the faces of the company and calls him a coward, and people backstage were furious. Then we have Kenny Omega returning, winning and cutting a promo after the show, calling the talents in the back tribute acts, which I'm sure rubbed people the wrong way. And now, this week, all of this is alleged, of course, but this is what everything has been building up to. This is where things were coming to a head. So there was a backstage meeting this week with AEW talent, and it was apparently a long meeting where several executive vice presidents and higher ups gave speeches to the AEW talent and the roster. And Tony Khan and the others who spoke did not speak about CM Punk and Adam Hangman Page's beef, and didn't discuss or bring light to Punk going into business for himself. They decided just to sweep this under the rug. But many of the people who spoke at the meeting, including Tony Schiavone, the Young Bucks, and Chris Jericho, gave rallying speeches to the talent and framed things in a positive perspective. Kenny Omega, however, was harsher than most and gave a tough love approach to his speech, according to PW Insider. basically saying that they're all there for each other, but everybody needs to cop on a bit. And the vast majority of the talent felt relieved or feeling better about the future, but many did not, is what Brian Alvarez said on Wrestling Observer Live. So this is a very interesting story when it comes to the meeting, because apparently they have these meetings every year and they haven't had one in the last year. So this was a very important meeting for them to have, and they finally had it at a time where it was badly needed, and people still walked out feeling unhappy, and people still walked out feeling like nothing was going to change. And for a company of the age of AEW is only around since 2019. For a young company like this to be encountering problems of this magnitude so early on really is the litmus test to see if they're going to survive in the future. And hopefully, as I'm a fan of this company, hopefully this is going to be successful in terms of getting people to calm down a bit. This is obviously Tony Khan's attempt at getting people to calm down and to be happy once again. But you can't help but feel an ironic revolution is coming and a max exodus of talent in the coming months, as people are unhappy with their booking and their positions on the card. And I know that some talents are obviously going to be ecstatic, but for the most part, it seems like a lot of their roster is unhappy. So All Out is coming this Sunday, which is their WrestleMania, and the company needs to make the correct calls, and they need to hit the reset button, and they need to shake things up. And personally, from my perspective, I understand the frustrations of the talent. If not due to the lack of use, but specifically if they're not used on Dynamite, they're relegated to Rampage, and they're going to soon be relegated to Ring of Honor, which Rampage specifically has gotten significantly worse in recent months, to the point where I miss Rampage when I never used to miss it. I don't care about it. I watched the episode just gone for this recap, but if it wasn't for this recap, I probably wouldn't have watched it, because they try to cram so much in 1 hour that it doesn't feel as real as it should, if that makes sense. It feels like it's pre-recorded when a show shouldn't feel pre-recorded. SmackDown was on Friday nights for 15 years before going live, even longer before going live, when it was taped on a Tuesday and Thursday. So you don't need to make it feel taped if you don't want to, but they obviously just don't care. They obviously just don't care. So moving on to the reviews, we'll move on to, firstly, WWE. So WWE Raw, and this is a good Raw. This is actually a good Raw. So Seth Rollins and Riddle brawl to open the show to a huge crowd reaction, and the brawl gets broken up and Raw eventually starts, and out comes Trish Stratus, and the fans are super happy to see her, and she's great on the mic, and she teases a match against Bayley, and Bianca, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka come out to back up Trish Stratus as Bayley, Dakota, and Io back off. And then we see Io Sky and Dakota Kai beat Asuka and Alexa Bliss in, listen to this, a 19-minute match. I think that this might be the longest women's match we've ever had on Raw. No joke. It was a good match, had some slow parts, but it was strong. And man, I want an Io Sky versus Asuka match. Fuck me, they're awesome in the ring together with that strong style. So good. We had a great backstage segment as Kevin Patrick, Ireland's finest, interviews Dolph Ziggler. Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley interrupt him, and Balor gets in Ziggler's face. Ziggler slaps him, calls him a little bitch for sitting on the floor. It was a good segment. Finn Balor beats Ziggler in a 13-minute match, and the fans are into it. And it was a bunch of near falls. It was solid. It was good stuff. We get a backstage promo with the women again, and we're told that it will be Aaliyah versus Bayley in her first match in 13 months. Was it July last year when our last match was? I think it was July last year. We then have Kevin Owens destroying Chad Gable in the Alpha Academy Open Challenge. Owens is the Canadian, so gets a huge pop when he comes out, and after the match, Owens gets jumped by Alpha Academy. They're a huge chance for Sammy, but Owens fights them off by himself and looks strong. And then we have Bayley beating Aaliyah in a match, and it was a bad match. And Aaliyah was visibly upset and bawling, and man, I was fucking confused. I thought somebody like touched her or threw something at her. I did not know what was going on because they did not look like happy tears, but we're told later on the show that she's so upset and emotional because it's her hometown. So she had a bad match, and I'm not sure she's ready for the roster because everything I've seen of her has been bad. She can't call anything on the fly, and you can tell that it needs to be a pre-programmed match. We then have Miz and Ciampa beating Styles and Lashley via disqualification, and it was a good match up until the finish. And the finish is Styles is caught in a sleeper hold by somebody behind the barricade, but gets out of it. We presume this is Dexter Lumis, who gets dragged away by security, but no! Dexter Lumis is at the other barricade and gets the Miz in a sleeper and drags him away into the crowd, and the Miz wins via DQ, and the babyfaces hit Ciampa with their finishers to end the segment. And it was a weird segment, and technically Styles should have won by DQ before Miz did, but Johnny Gargano in the next segment returns out of nowhere, and everyone was happy, and some people had no idea who he was. And he cuts this promo, introduces himself, super kicks Theory, and said he's back. Good segment. And now moving on to the main event, which is the only time in the entire show where I was absolutely fucking livid angry. Listen to this. So the main event is Damian Priest versus Edge. Edge wins the match, and the crowd is very hot. But I was fucking infuriated by this match. I was infuriated. I did not care about the match because I was so fucking angry over the television channel I was watching this on. So, in the UK and Ireland, we watched WWE Raw on BT Sport. This is a new enough thing that's after happening recently, because WWE was always on Sky Sports. Always. And Sky Sports were really good with not taking breaks by themselves. They would always take the same breaks the USA Network do. Now, I've watched Raw the last couple of weeks on BT Sport, and they haven't been taking those breaks out of nowhere that are different to the USA Network. They've been taking the breaks at the same time. So, Corey Graves at the start of this match states that there will be limited commercial interruptions for this match. And before the match, they do 2 breaks. They do 1 break, they do Damian Priest's entrance, and then they take another break. So they've already done 6 minutes of commercials at this point before the match has even started, because they want to get them out of the way. BT Sport did their own commercial breaks while the match was happening. So at one point, and this is no joke, I went back and I watched this. We had 90 seconds of the match. 90 seconds of the match. We then had 3 minutes of commercial breaks, which were not the commercial breaks by WWE at all. These were just by BT. We were back for 2 minutes and 10 seconds before another 3-minute commercial break. We've had 3 minutes and 40 seconds of wrestling and 6 minutes of ads since the opening bell. We're past halfway at this point. We have 4 minutes of wrestling before a 3-minute commercial break again. And then it comes back to the finish. So we're just back from the final commercial break. And 10 seconds after we're back, we see Edge hit a Canadian Destroyer, a spear, and win. Edge grabs 2 chairs to kill Priest, I presume, and Balor and Ripley come out for the save, beat down Edge, and we're about to concerto Edge, and Beth Phoenix makes the save to end Raw. It was a great Raw, spoiled by a terrible television channel. I can't even review this match, and I'm intentionally not going out of my way to find it. I was fucking shocked at how bad BT were. So I went onto Twitter and I typed in the @ for BT, WWE BT Sport or whatever, just to look at what people were tweeting them, and people were enraged. Like, look, I don't mind if during the middle of the match they're like, okay, we can't follow we can't follow the instruction for limited commercial breaks. So we'll take 1 commercial break in the middle of 3 minutes. Just because we need to get a commercial break in there. But they didn't. They didn't. Like, literally, there is, what is this? So we have 3 minutes, 3 minutes. So what's this? 9 minutes. 9 minutes of the match. 9 minutes of a 17-minute match were breaks. It's over half. So I can't even review this match. I just can't. But the Raw overall was good. Moving on to WWE SmackDown, and Ricochet and Happy Corbin open the show with an 11-minute match, and it's a good match. And Pat McAfee, this is so funny, after the match is drawing circles and arrows to Corbin's face through like one of those visual effects things, and man, he is slaying Happy Corbin, and Michael Cole is dying laughing. But like, this isn't just dying laughing for the cameras. Michael Cole is not laughing into his headset. You can tell that he's covering his mic, or his mic is turned off, and he is just dying laughing at what Pat McAfee is doing. I fucking love this. I love their relationship. It's so good. So after this, they have a Drew McIntyre promo from his entire career, and they're really just showcasing his journey in and out of WWE, trying to hype up Clash of the Castle. He states that he needed to hit rock bottom before he could get back to the top, and he talks about his mother passing away, and says that WWE firing him was the best thing that ever happened to him. And as soon as that promo is done, they air a carrying cross, weirdly shot promo that I think was shot in a full arena from the rafters with the arena blackened out, but the video is edited so they're in darkness and you can barely see them. But I actually don't know if the arena is empty or full, but this segment was not recorded at that time, and you can tell. Like, I don't know if it was recorded earlier in the night or what was happening, but it was very strange. But he basically talks about Drew McIntyre and says that Drew McIntyre's redemption is a beautiful story, and he says TikTok and he's coming for him and all that stuff. The next thing we have is a 3-minute match where Natalya and Sonya win the second chance for the tag titles, and this is due to Toxic Attraction having to withdraw due to injury. And I think this is actually disgraceful, as the entrances took as long as the match itself. There are 4 teams, and they let it go 3 minutes. So, like, we know that whoever wins this match is losing later on in the night, and this kind of demonstrated one of WWE's recurring problems, which is just nonsensical booking sometimes. You could have given these 8 women more than 3 minutes, you know? Just give them like 10 minutes. Like, it's not going to take away from the rest of the show. There's enough trash on the show that you could definitely fit this in. So, next thing is Fight Night! Sorry to destroy your ears. It's Fight Night! And Sheamus is face to face with Gunther, and I'm not sure if this is a Triple H directive or whatever, but I've never heard Sheamus be so Irish in my life, and it was great, and I'm so happy they're giving this feud time, and they're gonna tear the house down at Clash of the Castle in front of a European audience, in front of Irish fans. And Sheamus said the line. He said the infamous line, guys. I promise. Ooh. He didn't say, I promise I'm going to win the titles. He said something about, I promise I'm going to drag you down into the belly of the red dragon or something. It was really weird. But Gunther cuts a fantastic promo and said that he's going to break Sheamus and chop his chest into bloody bits. And there's a brawl in the ring as Gunther and Sheamus stand in the middle of the ring staring at each other, and it was great. It was very, very good, strong stuff. We have Sami knocking on Roman's door backstage. Jimmy and Jay causing hassle, not allowing Sami in, and Roman calls Sami into the dressing room. Sami Zayn sits down, and Roman says he appreciates what he did last week, but what he did is something that family does, and he asks Sami to keep Drew occupied in their match later tonight. Sami said that he's getting into people's head, and he throws down a blanket and has a picnic, and it was funny. And Roman breaks here and starts laughing legitimately, and so does Jay in the background as well. And Jay is the guy who hates Sami. So Jay hates Sami on TV, can't stand the guy, is constantly looking to kick the shit out of him. And Jay is dying laughing in the background for a minute. So they compose themselves, and Roman is saying that Sami has the opportunity to be the main event. And then we move on to Raquel Rodriguez and Aliyah beating Dakota Kai and Io Sky. Yeah. Oh, I misspoke. We have Aliyah and Raquel Rodriguez winning. I was like, wait, there wasn't a match here. We have Raquel Rodriguez and Aliyah winning, and they will face Dakota Kai and Io Sky on Monday for the Women's Tag Team Championships. That makes sense, because they beat Natalya and Sonya. I was very confused there for a second. So we have one more segment of Sami getting shit from Jey Uso, and Jey is in his face, telling him to handle his business and to level up if he is wearing the Bloodline t-shirt. And then they announced next week that we're getting a 2-year celebration for Roman on SmackDown, which I think is the perfect way to make Drew McIntyre go into Clash at the Castle look like he's going to win. Alternatively, they could have Roman finish strong here and make McIntyre look weak to make McIntyre look like an underdog going into this match. I'm not sure what way they're going to do it, but I do think this is a very good angle going into Clash at the Castle. So Drew beat Sami in 7 minutes, and Roman attacks Drew after the match, and eventually Roman hits a spear, and the Usos destroy McIntyre's back with steel chairs. Destroy his back. They're not pulling shots, and the photo of his back is brutal if you can go and have a look at it. Sami hits a haluva kick, and he seems to be accepted into the Bloodline, which I didn't expect. And I would imagine that would backfire in some way, but Roman speaks to the camera as he sits on a chair. The chair is over McIntyre's neck, and says that he wants someone to take it from me now when talking about his titles. He's demanding somebody try to take them from him. And that's how SmackDown ends.
The acclaimed, top of the chain, so I bet you know the name. Getting all the fans entertained. The acclaimed, running in the game, and we in our own lane. Everybody's saying that they wanna be acclaimed.
You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the 3-way at Sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning.
Look, the numbers just don't work.
But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning, because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even gonna try. So Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance, minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice.
Hey, there's only 6 numbers.
But then you take my 75% chance of winning. If we used to go one-on-one and then add 66 2/3%, I got 141 2/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice.
You gotta stay relaxed. Yeah. You jerk off?
Do I jerk off? Yeah.
Yeah, I jerk off, yeah.
See, you're one of those girls that like romance. I'm gonna talk to all my freaks out there. Would you rather come home to me, a genetic freak, to be satisfied every night, or go home to that fat-ass small Joe?
I myself, I jerk off at least twice a day. Wow. Once in the morning, right after I work out, and then once right after lunch. Really? Okay? I want to. That's not why I do it.
See, tonight, we're gonna win, and I'm gonna be the world champion at Sacrifice. Come on, P. Let's go.
Scotty, just like you always say, Big Papa Pump, it's got your hook up.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
AEW Dynamite, we had Garcia and Jericho kick off Dynamite, and Jericho is berating Garcia a little bit, demanding an apology. We have Garcia cutting an impassioned promo stating that Bryan Danielson is his hero and Jericho stole his moment. And Bryan Danielson comes out and tells Jericho that Garcia is a wrestler. And Jericho shoved by Garcia as Garcia tries to leave the ring. Garcia does leave the ring, and Bryan Danielson says that he's better than Jericho. And Jericho says that he's the last survivor of Stu Hart's dungeon. And Bryan insisted that he was better than Jericho and that Stu Hart and Owen Hart would agree with him. So now there's a match between them confirmed for All Out. Hager attacks Danielson to end the segment. We had Jay Lethal beat Dax Harwood in a fantastic technical wrestling match. It was a cheating finish as usual as somebody interfered because apparently Jay Lethal is incapable of winning by himself. But after the match, we had Sonya Dutt say that the trios match is happening at All Out. But it'll be Wardlow and FTR versus Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns, which is a name I haven't heard since I watched TNA, which is awesome. But we're seeing way too much Satnam Singh and Sonya Dutt on TV for them to be this useless. Like, what are they doing with Satnam Singh? Moving on, Thunder Rosa reveals she's injured. We talked about that. She said it'll be Toni Storm versus Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida for the interim title. She didn't actually say that. The commentator said that, but yeah, she said that there would be a 4-way match. Then that's the match. We have Colton beating Billy Gunn, and the Gun Club attacked Billy Gunn after the match, and Swerve in Our Glory made the save. It was really strange because there's a backstage segment later in the show where the Acclaimed were told by Swerve in Our Glory that because they're ranked, that means that they're worthy of challenging for the titles. So it'll be the Acclaim versus Swerve in Our Glory for the titles at All Out. What? So, what? So strange. CM Punk returned a few weeks ago to a huge pop, and he was only gone for about 6 weeks, and he was estimated to be gone for 12. So CM Punk returns and challenges Jon Moxley, who just beat Chris Jericho, and everyone thinks, oh shit, All Out is going to be crazy. The week after that, they do 2 pull-apart brawls with the guys, and they're cutting heated promos and referencing WWE in their past. So AEW sets a unification match for Dynamite this week, and everyone immediately goes, oh shit, they're giving this match on free TV. What? So the top of the second hour, it's the title unification match. They tease that this match, they'll stay with it as long as it takes. They're teasing this match is going to be a huge match and a long match, and they've been teasing it all week. So they brawl in the corners, and then Punk hits a high kick, and he hurts his instepping foot, which is his injured foot, and he goes down and he's screaming like crazy in pain. Moxley kills him with hammer and anvil elbows and 2 Death Riders to win the title. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. People couldn't believe this happened. Then we got a promo backstage confirming Christian versus Jungle Boy at All Out. We have Ricky Starks cutting an impassioned promo saying that Hobbs was his friend and he called him every day last year when he broke his neck. And when Hobbs hit him in the neck, he knew it could end his career and how close he was to losing everything. And Starks demanded a match at All Out, and Starks is so fucking good, man. They need to push this guy to the moon because he just has it all. Fans love him too. He's babyface. He's just so good. He's so good. Then we have Jon Moxley cutting a promo backstage asking fans, "Oh, was that not how it was supposed to go?" And then he says his time is now. It sounds very familiar. Then we have the main event. The main event is the United Empire beating Death Triangle in a great match where the commentators couldn't stop talking about how good Will Ospreay is. AEW are definitely signing this guy. Like, they keep raving about him every chance they get. They can't stop raving about how good he is. So Ospreay wins via the Oz Cutter. It's a great match. Kenny Omega comes out after the match with the Elite, and they have a stare down from the ramp to the ring as the show ended. And after the show, Omega cut a scathing promo on Ospreay, saying that he can't fill his shoes in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and said that Ospreay isn't as good as he thinks he is. And this was great. So it's the Elite versus the United Empire next Wednesday. AEW are doing a great job here of building up this pay-per-view. In the end, it looked like for a while there were no matches going to be happening at this show because they just weren't announcing anything. But we're heading into All Out and it's looking strong. And if you're wondering to yourself, by the way, if you are wondering to yourself, why is the AEW Dynamite and Rampage reviews so much shorter than WWE? And do you want to know the actual reason? The actual reason why they're so much shorter is because they're so much less complicated. So much less complicated. One of my friends asked me why, specifically last week, why was the SmackDown and Raw review so long compared to Dynamite? The reason why is because on Raw and on SmackDown, they always shoot a million angles for everything, for starters. They overtell a story the majority of the time, and they're actually doing a lot of different angles right now because they're trying to set up the future of the company. So things are way more over the top in WWE currently because they're doing, for example, Raw also has extra content and SmackDown is also longer than Rampage. Like, you have WWE has 2 extra hours per week as opposed to AEW, so it's going to be longer anyway. But in general, SmackDown and Raw has so many segments and they're moving so fast that there's just so much more to cover. As opposed to Rampage. Rampage is a 1-hour show where they try to shove in as much as possible. So Rampage is actually quite short, but there's a lot of stuff in it. Dynamite is 2 hours, is actually quite long, but they give matches time and they give promos time. So it seems like there's a lot less going on when in actual fact, there's a lot going on and there's a lot of storytelling going on. And that's the reason why the AEW reviews are so much shorter than WWE, even though I am an AEW fanboy, I suppose you could say. I watch all wrestling, but AEW is what got me back into it. So that is the Dynamite review. AEW Rampage. Rampage kicks off with the trios match between the Dark Order and the House of Black. The Dark Order win, and that completely kills off my prediction of the House of Black versus the Elite. Miro comes out towards the end of the match, and Miro kills Buddy Matthews on the ramp, and Reynolds rolls up Malachi Black for the win. Miro gets attacked by Buddy Matthews, and the House of Black are about to kill Miro, when out comes Darby Allin and Sting! So they're finally cashing in on Miro versus Malachi Black and the House of Black, and it looks like it's going to be House of Black versus Miro, Darby Allin, and Sting. And I think in general that they fuck this trios tournament, just to go back to that for a second. The left side of bracket is so much heavier than the right side. And they could have done with moving Death Triangle or the United Empire to the right bracket, but they're trying to make things at least make one side look unpredictable, I guess. But they put all of the strongest teams on the left bracket. We have Hook, who actually speaks more than one word, said he doesn't care, and he walks away. We have Wardlow crushing Ryan Nemeth, and then we have Hobbs killing someone, QT smacking Ricky Ricky Starks in the mouth with a watch as Hobbs watches on the Titantron. What the fuck? Let me try that again. Wardlow crushes Ryan Nemeth. Hobbs kills someone. So he kills somebody. And then QT decides to smack Ricky Starks in the mouth with his watch as Powerhouse Hobbs watches on the Titantron. There we go. We have a mixed tag team match with Ortiz and Ruby Soho versus Ty Mello and Sammy Guevara. And this match had one of the weirdest things I've seen in a match in a long time, where this is the finish to the match. But there's this top rope spot where Ortiz gets hit with this insane top rope cutter. And as soon as his face hits the mat, he is covered in blood. It looks like what happened on an old WWE game when somebody's head was so beat up that the screen flashes red to indicate they've been busted open. And yeah, that happens here. So he was definitely cut before the spot by mistake. But it looks like he was busted open on impact. And it looked kind of sick. But at the same time, I had to watch this like 4 or 5 times to realize he was cut before it. It genuinely looks like he gets hit by the cutter and he is immediately busted open on impact. It looks so cool. It looks so cool. So Ty and Sammy win. They're gaining momentum for the JAS. They show CM Punk backstage footage where he's saying he didn't feel a pop or anything, but his foot just gave out. And we'll discuss this more in a moment. Then we had the main event, which was Dustin Rhodes versus Claudio Castagnoli. And man, this was awesome. A great wrestling match. It was a little bit slower than we're used to, but Dustin is so good for his age, man. And the fans were really into it. It was a really good match. Just a good back and forth, strong style match. Claudio wins and Rampage ends. And I'm always impressed with how much they pack into Rampage, to be fair to them. Like, it needs to be a 2-hour show, it really does. And 2 hours airing at the same time every week, even if it clashes with something else, will really help the show. Now, going back to the CM Punk thing for just 1 second, it looks like going into Wednesday that they might actually have CM Punk wrestle at All Out. The story that they're trying to paint now is CM Punk came back too soon, and I thought that he was going to be written off TV so he can recover, but no, it seems like he's going to tape up his foot and at All Out is going to wrestle Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. And he's going to wrestle Jon Moxley in his hometown as the underdog with an injured foot. And this story is a million times better than it was. But we still don't have any confirmation of that. And if that's the case, they only have a couple of days to come up with something that actually seems like Punk is not going to get squashed again. Because if they're just going to have Punk say on Dynamite that, hey, I'm going to tape it up, I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to do my best, and we're going to try win this title back. People, there's going to be 2 questions. First question, you are not ready to return. Why are you here? Second question, why should we believe you when you just got squashed in seconds? There's nothing behind it, really. So with CM Punk, I don't know what they're doing, because I thought they were genuinely writing him off TV, but that doesn't seem to be the case. On the midweek show, we will discuss that a little bit in more detail. We don't really discuss much in terms of recapping on the midweek show anymore, but we will discuss that a little bit as it would have happened the night before. Next weekend is WWE Clash at the Castle on Saturday and AEW All Out on the Sunday. I'm going to be going to Clash at the Castle with my friend Karma, who was on the midweek episode where we watched the 2001 Royal Rumble, and the weekend show where we recap everything will have all of the news and the recap of the week, but it will not have Friday night SmackDown next week, as I'm traveling that day to Clash at the Castle and won't have time to record. However, there will be a special recap on the Monday following Clash at the Castle where I'll quickly recap SmackDown and recap the events of the weekend. So next Saturday's show, we'll recap the week and preview the weekend. And that's it. Take care, everyone. I'll see you midweek. I'm looking forward to Clash at the Castle. And the midweek is going to be one of those episodes where we talk about something in the past as opposed to the present or the future. So that'll be a fun little episode on Wednesday or Thursday.